Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum, celebrating 18 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss critical issues facing government and industry leaders in rolling out Zero Trust network strategies and technologies. With me on today's show are Vu Nguyen, Chief Information Security Officer, Department of Justice; Stephen Kensinger, CIO, Cyber and Security Division, Senior Technical Advisor, Defense Intelligence Agency; Carl Hellman, Deputy Chief Information Security Officer at Department of Labor; John Kindervog, Chief Evangelist, Illumio; Christine Farron, Cyber Strategy Lead, Lumen Public Sector; and Wesley Withrow, Cyber Lead, Verizon Public Sector. Well, we're talking all things Zero Trust, and I always like to put Zero Trust architecture on there. Vu, we're going to start with you. You know, the memo came out, 2 years ago almost, January it'll be. And we know that you all have been on a tear over there. We know that your Deputy Attorney General, Lisa, very focused on this area, very versed in this area. Give us a state of the state as to what is happening at Department of Justice on your Zero Trust architecture journey.
All right, first of all, thank you for having me today, Luke. So before we can discuss the progress, let's look at where we have been and where we are now and what does our current environment looks like. So Zero Trust is not a singular solution. It's an integration of capability shaped by a set of guiding principles and security practices. So over the past decade, the department has built a defense in-depth security architecture that contains elements that support us to the shift of Zero Trust. And the key of this effort has always been centralizing our cybersecurity program, keep a holistic view of the department's security postures. So our building blocks includes, the first is knowing what asset or resource that's in your environment. And secondly, knowing the state of those assets that are in your environment. So for example, knowing how they are being configured, how they're hardened, what vulnerability to associate with them, because that helps you identify where the risks are. And then lastly, knowing who are authorized to have access in your environments. So at DOJ, we fully adopt the HSPD 12 for our department's identity management, where there is a strong identity proofing process in the forefront, and coupled with that is credentials to serve as a part of our MFA methods for access management. So all that to say is DOJ shapes our Zero Trust strategy with the starting point at the core of cybersecurity foundation. And we're building upon that, what we already have, by leveraging modern technology.
Fantastic, and trust no one, trust but verify is the key here. Appreciate the update, Vu. Stephen, how about at the Defense Intelligence Agency? A lot of moving parts over there, undoubtedly. Where are you, sort of the top line state of the state at this point?
Yeah, so for us, I think one of the biggest keys here is the leadership buy-in. So we've spent a good amount of time communicating through the senior leadership within the agency and our partners that we provide services for and to on what this is going to mean in this kind of transformation of our enterprise into this new kind of mindset under the Zero Trust umbrella. So along with that leadership buy-in is kind of the focus of priorities, kind of getting all of those projects, services, all the modernization efforts that are supporting this journey properly prioritized within the enterprise, and to then we're going to work through the various divisions and workforce to ensure we're all working and kind of chugging towards those same priorities with that common goal. We've spent a good amount of time kind of aligning the organization under a concept of a new program to support this effort, and not so much taking the resources out of their kind of existing places within the organization, but more logically aligning a structure for this program that we can plan from, like a FIDP for future years defense funding planning, and have a full breadth of understanding through the organization and management of those features. So along with that, we've focused a lot within the data space, from standardizing data within the organization to increase the interoperability within the organization, as well as within our partners that we support within not only the IC, but as well as, DoD and our federal civilian partners as well.
Very important to have leadership buy-in, particularly when you're trying to rack and stack and fund these initiatives, right? Carl, how about at Department of Labor? I know you all have been on your own journey over there for quite some time. Give us a top line as to where Department of Labor stands right now in rolling out this capability.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah, so we started out with doing a kind of a gap analysis. What's our current capabilities? What would our future end state be at the completion of a zero trust journey? And what would our future trust state be at the completion of a zero trust journey? So we identified those areas that we needed to work on. We identified 7 key components within the zero trust architecture that we wanted to accomplish. Identified 24 different maturity models where each one of those components would end up, and then built a 21-step strategic roadmap to get us there. So we started down, it's a very methodical project management based step-by-step approach where we take after one of our roadmap initiatives, pilot it, implement it slowly, bring it out through the rest of the environment, make sure that we maintain our current capabilities for all of our federal staff and our contractor staff, make sure that zero trust environment doesn't damage any of the operational work of the department, and then go to the next step. So very program management, methodical based methodology for getting there to make sure that, again, our key element always in the cybersecurity has been protect our data, protect our users, but also remember operations. The department exists to conduct operations on behalf of the American public, and we don't want to impact operations to get to this zero trust environment.
Really appreciate that update. John, it really is an honor to have you on this show. You're the godfather of this movement, widely recognized. Recently came over to Illumio. Give us a top line. What are you seeing from your vantage point across the community about the implementation of this capability? Does everyone understand it? Are we on the right path?
Yeah, I think this has become a global movement where we're heading towards the same North Star. It's kind of a wide line in terms of you're at different places and you're coming there, but the convergence point is very similar. But we still have a long way to go in understanding zero trust and what it really means to eliminate trust. We're not trying to create trust, right? So in fact, in the first report I wrote, it was called No More Chewy Centers, and I'm attacking the trust but verify concept because Ronald Reagan said it in the 80s, unrelated to cybersecurity. So the new mantra should be verify and never trust. We're not trusting anything in the digital realm because trust is a human emotion, and that human emotion has been injected into digital systems for no reason at all. So once I get people kind of beyond that step, I sat on the President's NSTAC subcommittee on zero trust and trusted identity management. We issued a report last February to the President on this, and I would encourage everyone to go out and read that report because we would say that is authoritative on what zero trust is. Lumen participated, many of the agencies, including the NSA, DISA, NIST, the Air Force participated, and then a lot of industry luminaries, me, Chase Cunningham, other people all participated. So we were able to, as well as the major vendors, so we were able to create a very simple document that helps people understand it. And I think a lot of times people think it's more complicated than it actually is. It's really, really simple to do. there's a 5-step model. If you follow that process, you will get to success. So whenever you feel like it's getting complicated, step back a little bit. It's, you know, you're probably hearing about some things that are not really part of Zero Trust and maybe designed to get you to buy something that you don't need.
Amen. And we really appreciate that. And you heard it here. Verify and never trust. I love it. Christine, tell us about the state of the state as to where things stand from Lumen's standpoint.
Good afternoon. So we are very focused on transforming and modernizing our government networks. Under the GSA EIS contract, we have the vehicle to support the agencies over the next decade. And so the work we're going to do is very important. We're looking at best-in-class cybersecurity partnerships. We've integrated those to deliver zero trust architectures, and we can deliver advanced maturity across all pillars. And we have not only a portfolio of established cybersecurity providers, but some key emerging companies that have game-changing technology. And we think it's important to kind of have a mix of those, because the adversary is complex and the environment's complex. And we need all the capabilities we can muster to try to compete in this cyber war.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate that update. Wesley, how about at Verizon? You all have an absolute entire fabric out there. Give us the state of the state.
Yeah, so the state of the state's actually been getting much better over the past couple of years. So, since the executive order, what we've been doing with agencies, and we've been doing this, we've seen a lot of activity on the federal side, as well as seen a big uptick in the state local as well, too, which has been great to see. But so we've just been helping agencies align to the, a common vision strategy kind of prior to their execution stage. And so what I mean by that is what we saw right after the executive order and all the different frameworks that came out is that there was some general confusion in the market about some of the different guidance documents that are out there. How do you use them? Do they apply to me as a federal, civilian, DOD, right? Where do I fit? So what we've been doing is we've been doing a lot of zero trust workshops where we've been spending a lot of hands-on time with the agencies to help them understand what zero trust is, how they can get aligned to it, and then also doing a lot of zero trust assessments as well, too. So that's where we're coming in and helping do the gap analysis, where we've been helping carve out these roadmaps and also the use cases that are helping agencies kind of transition into this outcome-based zero trust model, where we've been taking their different maturity levels and mapping those to a zero trust capability model. So it's been an absolute blast working with agencies because it's kind of really reinvigorated a lot of folks across security and just in general IT operations as well, too.
Everybody's on a movement. We are pointed towards a North Star, so to speak. And we appreciate you all providing clarity, right? Those orders are tough to write and to get everyone on the same page. I assure you of that. All right, well, let's talk about a specific program we'd like to highlight. Carl, I'm going to start with you at Department of Labor. You top-lined a lot of different activities over there. Would you like to talk about one in particular, shine a light on and inform the listening audience here?
I sure would, Luke. Thank you. One of our 7 pillars is data protection. So within the realm of getting to zero trust, we have multi-factor authentication, a 100% adoption rate for our 169 applications that we manage here at the Department of Labor. All have single sign-on using multi-factor authentication. In addition to that, all of those applications, we have migrated them to under the NIST Revision 5 framework of security controls into an ongoing authorization status. So we have continuous monitoring of our workloads and our applications. And then finally, under that data protection, we've been doing a lot of work with the Department of Homeland Security with their CDM, their Continuous Diagnostic and Mitigation Program, in dashboarding and being able to find threats, vulnerabilities to our applications, and and work ahead of the curve at finding them, mitigating them, correcting them, and keeping our data safe. So we think we've made some very good strides in that data protection element.
Excellent. And thank you for that use case. We really do appreciate it. John, I'm going to go to you. Got an incredible visibility across this ecosystem. Where would you like to highlight an event, a program, a movement, if you will, that would be of great interest to our listening audience?
I think what I'd like to highlight, Luke, is the concept of a protect surface, because that's a fundamental concept in Zero Trust, but no one has talked about it yet today. And I think if people understand that, they can understand how Zero Trust really is a game changer. So instead of worrying about the attack surface, which is ever expanding, much like the universe, we define a protect surface. A protect surface is an inversion of the attack surface. We shrink it down orders of magnitude to something very small and easily known that we can put a micro perimeter around and control policy in a granular way and reduce the policy burden 7 to 10 times. So if anybody's ever seen one of my speeches, I usually give a presentation. Part of the presentation is how the Secret Service protects the president in the United States. When they're doing executive protection, all they really care about is the president and his family. And they're trying to protect that one group of people. And so if other people, get caught up, that's unfortunate, but they're not the protect surface. If at the end of the day, the president and his family are alive, the Secret Service has done their job, right? And so this is
a high value asset for sure.
Absolutely. And we spend too much time worrying about things that really aren't important, but we try to do it all at once. So if you do Zero Trust one protect surface at a time, you can break cybersecurity down into manageable bite-sized chunks. So you do it one protect surface at a time. This makes it incremental. You do it one after another. This makes it iterative. And by doing it in that way, it becomes non-disruptive. And what that means is that the most you can screw up at any one time is one protect surface. And so by getting that protect surface concept out there, people will really start to understand what they're trying to accomplish. Cybersecurity is too big of a task to solve all at once, right? You eat the elephant one bite at a time, you boil the ocean one teaspoon at a time, whatever your favorite consumption metaphor is. And in Zero Trust, it's a continuous journey. It goes on for as long as that protect surface exists. And you can make that protect surface stronger and stronger the more you have visibility about what's happening. So it's a pretty unique thing. And when people get the concept of protect surface, they get the overall concept of Zero Trust, and they get excited about it because they understand how they can build it more simply.
Yeah, really narrowing that blast zone, very important. We really do appreciate it. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about Zero Trust strategies, Zero Trust architecture, etc. We're talking about specific programs that we'd like to highlight. Vu, I'm going to throw it over to you. I can appreciate how vast Department of Justice is, the FBI, the Marshal Service, DEA, et cetera, et cetera. Can you give us an example of one program that you'd like to highlight as you all are on this this journey, if you will?
So I'm taking the holistic view, Luke. So first, unifying our identity management program, because in reality, we are an organization of about 160,000 users, to include federal and contractor, across over 40 components. So it's important for us to have a way to standardize and track the department's digital identity and be able to tie it back to every single person or user within our environment. And then secondly, we are augmenting our endpoint asset management solutions to integrate it with a real-time detection and response automation, because this will help our SOC or enable our SOC in threat hunting and responding to the ongoing threats. And by combining these capabilities together, by leveraging the Zero Trust broker to serve as the policy enforcement point, is the third focus of our strategies. So ultimately, our strategy is about authenticated identity with active monitoring, and that is the model that the department is working towards while continuing the support of the DOJ mission.
Sounds like a fantastic building block capability there. We really appreciate the update. Christine, how about at Lumen? Would you like to give us an example of a program you'd like to highlight?
Yes, so we're working with an agency where we're deploying Lumen Zero Trust Network Access. And the exciting thing about it is not only are we supporting the remote workers more effectively, but we're actually securing the agency's movement of data in a purely machine-to-machine automated workflow through our identity and access and management capabilities. And, this is something that NIST calls out as an area of concern. I think a lot of people are focused on person entities and not looking at all of the machine traffic that crosses the networks. And so we're solving for a unique concern. The Zero Trust Network Access platform is tailored for these kinds of automated workflows. And it's the only technology we know of that implements true multi-factor authentication for machine-to-machine traffic. We support the mission of the agency by preventing cyber adversaries from gaining unauthorized access to systems and services using compromised static machine credentials, such as certificates and API keys. And, they may have stolen those from government workers or from system repositories. And so it's really relevant because we're preventing adversaries from using stolen credentials to alter data stores, to steal and manipulate information, and to enter networks. And the platform really pins machine communications to only trusted systems and services.
Interesting angle there, and no question that once you hijack those credentials, that's when the party starts. And machine to machine, very interesting angle there. So we appreciate the focus on that. Stephen, how about at DIA? You want to give us a program that you'd like to highlight there?
That's like I feel several, so I'll just kind of try to bend everything into like a discussion. But
okay, sure.
Kind of following on the heels there, for sure, for us, we've had a heavy focus within not only the person entity, but also the MP space as well. And obviously, at the core of all of this is the identity. Our mission space, we have an added challenge kind of with the entitlement space. And we've spent a lot of time working with mission partners to capture those requirements, to fold in what those entitlements and attributes are needed in combination with that identity to gain access, to those data objects. And as John eloquently stated in the beginning, the verify and never trust combination of that at our individual data object level, this has kind of been a heavy focus for us. So working with those mission partners, getting our services aligned into one portfolio, like I mentioned earlier, has enabled us to make sure we're capturing those requirements from those partners to capture their individual data needs within that transaction space. So as we build these capabilities, we're able to make those decisions kind of at speed and at scale through the enterprise.
Fantastic. Appreciate that update. Wesley.
Yeah, so this is it was a fun project to work on. We had a federal civilian agency come to us right after the executive order, and they came to us and had a couple of things they brought forward. They said, we've heard of the Trusted Internet Connections 3.0 or TIC 3.0 program. We were told we were supposed to do some things for it, but we haven't done anything over the past 7 years. And we were hearing about Zero Trust as well, too. So can you come in and help do an overall gap analysis, do an assessment?
Sounds like one of the agencies went to confession.
Yeah, well, that's what I felt. I was like, please don't tell me that, right? Like, let me help in some other ways, but don't spill the beans here. But couldn't have asked for a better team. I mean, the contracting officer was involved, the CIO was involved, the CISO was involved. They had cross-functional stakeholders, right? And they were always the first ones to the meeting as well, too. And so what we ended up doing was a gap assessment. And during that assessment, right, we were able to help evaluate, zero trust capability model and their maturity levels. We did the same with the TIC 3.0 capabilities. And then what we found most interesting was probably the most helpful for this agency was that they were familiar with the NIST CSF framework. And so we were able to actually take the zero trust architecture capability model and framework, the TIC 3.0 framework, and then help bridge the gap between those by mapping out the different frameworks and really kind of translating it over to them into the NIST CSF framework so they could kind of see the connection there. But once we got done with the actual gap analysis, the agency said, this is fantastic, right? Now we have an understanding of what we need. Can you take the output of that analysis and identify some original equipment manufacturers that have cloud native solutions that we can implement? So we're actually able to take part of that evaluation and then bring in different original equipment manufacturers that had solutions that could map to those gaps. So instead of basically having OEMs come in and do a dog and pony show and kind of blast out all their capabilities, they were actually able to tailor their individual presentations to how they met those specific gaps. So it was an absolute blast of a project because we were able to accomplish a lot in a little bit of time. We couldn't have had better participation from the government as well.
Fantastic. I love to hear about the partnership, and always nice when you have a roadmap that everyone's working from. So I appreciate that. We're going to talk about priorities. Carl, I'm going to start with you. I always know there's a whole bunch of them, but for this year, give us, top couple of priorities that you are focused on for this year that you're trying to make sure get accomplished.
Thank you, Luke. So for us, one of our priorities in our zero trust journey is continuing to enhance our network security. So as you know, at the Department of Labor, we end up supporting workers, whether they're coming into the job market, they're in the job market, they've left the job market, they've retired. So our network interacts with the public quite often. So we have a lot of users who we don't control coming into our space to take advantage of Department of Labor services. So that access, that security of our network, that availability of our network becomes very important to us. So one of those 7 key components network is a real focus point for us in FY24 as we start going to this zero trust and we're verifying everyone who comes in. That becomes a real identity challenge for us. And one of the things that we're going to leverage is very recently we received a technology modernization fund award for $15.2 million to help us on our zero trust journey. So we're going to take that money and leverage it to support the identity and access and logging on our network to be able to support the American public. So it's been a very big win-win for us.
Fantastic, and we really appreciate the laser focus. John, how about Illumio? What's a top priority for you? What's sort of the marching orders, or are they just kind of cutting you loose and it's, hey, we've got the technology, we just need to make the community aware of how to use it and where to use it?
Well, I think there's twofold. One is helping people understand what zero trust is, helping them understand what it means and how it can be used strategically. And the second thing is the reason that I came here, I've only been here a short time, was this was a very interesting company that did some unique things, which is it had technology that covered all the places where we hold protect surfaces, endpoints, on-premise, and then multiple public clouds. So we just released our latest version of Cloud Secure. It's really brand new, rewritten, and it's exciting to see that kind of innovation because I guess the industry has kind of dropped in innovation for a while. And now hopefully we're coming back with some innovation as we understand how Zero Trust can be instantiated in policy if you have the right controls, and having custom controls created to meet the needs of Zero Trust is an exciting thing for me to be at the beginning of.
And we really do appreciate you sort of evangelizing this capability. Vu, top priorities for you at Department of Justice this year?
For us, we have three top priority for the upcoming year, Luke. So the number one is enhancing the DOJ Zero Trust implementations to transform cybersecurity enterprise capability. So we must expand on our Zero Trust initiative and build upon the foundation that we are already laid. And we don't want just to adopt Zero Trust. We want to continue to evolve it, especially as the DOJ missions grow. So as we move forward, I want to continue to support and manage this initiative effectively. And secondly, is to reinforce the department cybersecurity foundation through improving asset management and cyber hygiene. And this is going back to the basic, right? Because the foundation of cybersecurity is cyber hygiene. By focusing on improving asset management, we ensure that every digital component from hardware to software is accounted for and is safeguarded through configuration and vulnerability management. Because at the end of the day, we can't protect what we don't know. And lastly is SOC maturation. So think of a SOC as a control and command center for an organization's cyber defense. And a mature SOC doesn't just react to the threat. It proactively hunt for them, anticipate vulnerability, and orchestrate a response with precision. And with today's ever-evolving of the threat landscape, having a mature SOC is an essential function as it is in the forefront of protecting the organization.
Outstanding. That's the highlight. Vu's warriors are on the hunt. I love it. Christine, how about at Lumen? Top priorities for you all this year that you're focused on?
So Lumen's going to continue to evolve as a Zero Trust integrator, and we're going to continue to work closely with partners and customers to understand the mission problems and how we can solve for those particular issues. We have a strong bench of partners, and through our membership in ATARC, we're seeing tremendous value. It's really a unique opportunity for us to demonstrate Zero Trust integration capabilities to the federal community. And so we'll deliver our presentation in January, and it will be with our partners and with the government. And we'll solve for 13 specific use cases that the government identified as key vulnerabilities. So we're looking forward to that. And, we will continue conversations from that event, I believe. The other thing is that as we move forward with ATARC Phase 3 in the new year, we're looking at, the challenges government will continue to face and how can we deliver unique capabilities to support the ever-evolving threats. So hybrid cloud, right, is a big challenge for security, and there are emerging cyber challenges like quantum and AI that we're going to have to address. And so we look forward to partnering with ATARC and with the industry members and the federal agencies to improve the mission outcomes.
Really do appreciate that update and the laser focus in those areas. Stephen, I know there's got to be numerous priorities. Give us your top 2 or 3 that you're focused on at DIA.
Sure. So in that mission space, we're focused on beginning to transition some of our flagship mission capabilities and systems to our modernized foundational Zero Trust services. I would equate it to the Protect services kind of conversation, where we've went through kind of in this pre-ZT phase, leveraging kind of the standard vernacular, and evaluated all of our existing data flows, what our tools, our capabilities look like to be able to support on our journey where we want to get to in that advanced data maturity. So as we're bringing those foundational modernized services online, the focus right now for us will be to start to begin to transition some of those existing, what I would say, maybe legacy applications or even current modernized applications, but not to the level of embracing enterprise services yet. So kind of a second component to that then is to start to really buckle down and standardize on those enterprise services, conforming to the data standards piece that we talked about earlier, and to ensure that we try to actively seek out maybe shadow IT type things within the enterprise, to where people, or actually I won't say people, that's not fair, but where systems or capabilities have built unique, special one-off use case type solutions to things, maybe because at the time the services didn't exist or whatnot. But as we're moving forward and modernizing those services, we're on a heavy marketing campaign to begin to transition to these services, eliminate the shadow IT through the enterprise, and reduce a lot of the one-off architectures.
Really starting to tighten up that implementation. We really do appreciate it. No, that's a daunting task. Wesley, top priority at Verizon this year.
Yeah, so I'll walk through kind of three priorities, but the top one with Verizon is, secure 5G adoption. So Verizon has been on a tear the past few years, right, with just accelerating, right, the deployment and investing billions of dollars into getting the 5G infrastructure, right, out, not just in this country, but just across planet Earth, right? So, and what we've seen is like 5G and the conversations we've had with customers has also transitioned into the conversation of, all right, if we transition into 5G and the wireless and start to use the wireless spectrum, how will this kind of map to and accelerate our adoption of security and zero trust? So it's been fun to kind of hit it from that angle with different agencies. We talked about, secondly, we talked about doing the workshops and the zero trust assessments, which kind of go hand in hand sometimes with talking about the 5G with agencies. But then third, and this has been a kind of a big focus area as well too, has been integrating solutions into our network that provide secure network transport that's protected by a cloud native security stack. So with agencies transitioning into the cloud, and having solutions that are in play that kind of act like a cocoon that follow their end users around instead of end users being tethered in. So what we're trying to do is, again, accelerate the adoption of some of the things that are overlaid on the network that bring in that cloud native security stack, things like security service edge, and getting tied into things like secure access service edge as well too.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate that update. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about zero trust strategies. We're going to talk about lessons learned, critical part of the show here. Stephen, let's start with you at DIA. You all are on a journey. You've got a lot of activity going on. What's a top lesson learned you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, a top lesson learned. So for us, again, I have to hit data, I think, is probably like in that space. And there's the disparity through the enterprise of conformance of standards and where we're shifting as we move forward to leverage, again, enterprise provided solutions for those access decisions, not only to include identity, but our entitlement. So the lessons learned space is kind of heavily focused for us within, we mentioned earlier, the person entity as well as the non-person entity, having complete awareness and understanding of our data throughout the enterprise and how things are moving within the enterprise. Being able to protect that particular surface is a complex challenge for us. So that's where a lot of the focus has been. We've learned a lot of lessons doing various data studies. We've established tiger teams. We've really kind of embraced the perspective of what we would call that pre-zero trust space to dive in and really understand that problem set for our agency and what we are going to do in order to move forward into the future to support the zero trust architecture.
Really do appreciate that. John, you've been on this campaign for a long time. You've seen a lot of fits and starts. What would you say is the biggest gotcha, biggest lesson learned, pearl of wisdom that you'd like to share with the community?
Well, I mentioned there's a 5-step model of how you do this. And step 2 is often overlooked, and that's mapping the transaction flows. I learned about this the hard way when one of the early Zero Trust environments ever built, somebody pulled out a server as we were doing it because it was old. Oh, that's an old one. We'll pull it out. And that brought down 5,000 retail stores because no one knew what it did. And so I added that step to the process. So once you know what you want to protect, map the transaction flows on how it works together as a system, because you can't design the security until you understand the system itself. So mapping the transaction flows, understanding how all the traffic moves around, what it talks to, is hypercritical to being successful. And if I was going to give you one key thing, understand the system as fully as you possibly can before you start implementing controls.
Fantastic. Know that environment. Very key. Carl, Department of Labor, top lesson learned for you all so far.
Thanks, Luke. So I'm going to virtually foot stomp something John said earlier in the program, and that is this journey is a marathon. It is not a sprint to a zero trust architecture and environment. And just as John just said, you have to plan that journey out, and all of your systems and networks start at a different point. Your legacy applications are in one location. Your brand new applications are in a different location. So take an incremental step-by-step approach to move forward every day, every week in that journey that we're taking to zero trust. And don't try to do everything at once, because that's not a path to success.
Yeah, and don't try to leave it all on the table the first week, the first month. It's a multi-year type of strategy that actually never ends, right? Wesley, how about at Verizon?
Yeah, so probably the biggest lesson learned, and this is probably one of the most positive surprises, right, that we've seen just across our interactions with agencies, is that in most instances, agencies are much further along in, across zero trust than they originally thought. So for example, we'll walk into an agency, you'll say, hey, we've just read a couple documents on zero trust. We haven't done anything. And then once we get in there and start helping them and look underneath the hood, they're kind of surprised in a positive way to find out that they've done, 30-40% of the lift already, across some of the core capabilities and some of the different pillars. And so, usually after we come in and look underneath the hood and help with an assessment or a workshop, right, we'll kind of open their eyes to the fact that they've actually got a much better position than they thought. And then we'll help them identify, top 2 to 3 different projects that they can complete, within the year or the next 2 years to get them, let's say 80 to 90%, across that journey. So again, just to reiterate, is I think agencies are much further along in a lot of instances than they thought. And that's been a very positive thing for us to see, and a lesson learned as well too.
Fantastic. That's encouraging. Vu, I would consider Department of Justice ahead of most of the very large CFO Act agencies. And there's no question that you can share some pearls of wisdom for this community about things that folks may want to do, not do. Give us a top lesson learned that you'd like to share, Vu.
Sure, Luke. So I will sum all of our lessons learned into one point.
Okay.
That is built upon existing cyber capability that you already have, because that will be crucial. Because using current capability as the foundation to create a smoother transition, because it optimizes things that you already invested in, and minimizing any disruption that you may have for that transition. So existing capability like MFA or identity management does already align with the zero trust principle. So when possible, enhancing or integrating current capability is the most practical approach.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate that sort of that summation, if you will. Christine, top lesson learned at Lumen.
So I think what we're seeing with the agencies is that they're challenged in really understanding the application workloads, their data inventory, and their flows to implement Zero Trust. And you have to have command of all of this, right, in order to really secure your environment. And I think it's difficult with a large enterprise because everything's so distributed and there's not a single owner of all the applications. So it's an area where we see a challenge. The problem is that many organizations and system owners really don't have a good baseline of what normal looks like. Hence, they don't have a clear understanding of their risk surface. And so, today your applications can be distributed across multiple clouds and data centers, and data's flowing and being shared amongst all of those environments. And so you need visibility, and you need to be able to visualize communication and traffic between the workloads and devices across that entire hybrid attack surface. And that telemetry is going to help identify needed policies and triggers to take effect in a zero trust automated environment. So we're working currently with technology that can be deployed quickly and easily across your large enterprise. It can build an enterprise map that identifies your agency assets and associated workloads. And we really think this is a critical starting point for moving towards zero trust.
Really have to understand your environment before you can secure it. No question about that. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to be wrapping it up here, but we always like to end with that question. Let's fast forward 2 to 3 years from now. Wesley, I'm going to start with you at Verizon. What's it going to look like 2 to 3 years from now? We're all going to have our devices fully 5G enabled, secure. What's next?
Right.
What can we expect? What are these agencies going to be encountering 2 to 3 years from now?
So 2 to 3 years from now, right? So we kind of break this down into kind of the vision, strategy, and execution, right? So we've kind of got a little bit past the vision stage. We're right now in that strategy stage where we've been helping agencies define what they're going to do. And then we're going to be hitting that execution phase in this next 1 to 3 years. And so one of the things that we've found, with working with agencies is that, they're moving a lot to just everything being software defined. And so there's going to be a massive displacement of a lot of hardware out there. So for example, we've been working with agencies that are, as they're looking at zero trust, one of the first things they're doing is going, let me complete an inventory of my assets and let me start by focusing on the things that are going to be displaced. So the hardware that may be displaced as I start implementing these software-defined solutions. So, hey, my physical web gateways may go away. My physical VPN concentrators may go away. Right. So I think, what we're going to start to see is this big transition away from a lot of the hardware-based solutions, right? And then moving more into the software-defined realm. And that's going to start to make a lot of different changes the way as people consume. And then, of course, I cannot go without saying, right, we're talking 5G. And so we're going to see, right, as agencies are adopting these software-defined solutions, they're also going to be looking at different ways to get access to the internet. So instead of the traditional physical wired networks, there's going to be more of a hybrid adoption, right? And looking at things like 5G and even 4G LTE as well, too.
Sure. And we really do appreciate that. Looking forward to it. Christine, Lumen, fast forward 2 to 3 years, what can we expect?
So, Lumen will continue to have this highly peered network with unique global visibility through Black Lotus Labs. We see threats before others, which is why we're a key member of JCDC and other joint collaborative groups. As a network provider, we think it's imperative that you deliver network fabric with security built in. Everything rides across the network. You don't reach your cloud or your applications without the network. And so combining the strength of the network with the other pillars of zero trust is really where we see strength of partnering and integrations being a key advantage to helping our clients, right, achieve their zero trust goals. We also are, watching AI closely. We believe AI represents both great opportunities and great challenges. And so we see a world where AI is used to find zero-day attacks, but the adversaries are also going to attack with AI. And so we're all going to have to react faster. And so the future really represents new challenges, but we are confident and optimistic that with American innovation, with American innovation that will rise above.
Outstanding. We really do appreciate that. John, fast forward 2 to 3 years, you've had the opportunity to sort of see this this journey in 2 and 3 year increments over the course of a decade. What would you expect to see 3 years from now?
I think we'll just see more maturity as people understand what they need to protect and how to do that. And I think protection will get more proactive. Right now, we're still in too much of a visibility phase and detection, right? And not too many people are afraid to stop the bad things. And as this cyber war escalates, that is happening globally, and cybercrime escalates, and capabilities become greater in the hands of an attacker, we're going to have to get real serious about proactively preventing bad things from happening. I think we're still too passive. We're still too fearful of things that really don't exist. We're so afraid of false positives, right? Well, I haven't seen that be a problem for a decade now, but we're still afraid of it. So there's too much fear that we've given to people to, oh boy, if that happens, you could get in trouble. And we need to re-incentivize people to stop the bad stuff before it ever becomes bad. We don't need to threat hunt, because we can keep the threats out if we have the properly designed zero trust environment. I care less about threats now, because the networks that I build and maintain just don't care about it, because there's no rule allowing an unknown threat to come in and access a protect surface. So if we get that policy straight and we have it very proactive and locked down, it's actually easier for us than it is for the attacker, because they're still limited by the TCP/IP stack, and there's not anything they can go beyond that. So we're constraining them just by the fact of the way the technology is built.
Interesting. So we can look forward to a much more aggressive posture on the horizon. Appreciate that, John. And
well, and I'm hoping that people will get aggressive. So I'm
Mhm.
encouraging people to get aggressive and not be so fearful and be so passive.
Perhaps Vu will talk about his warrior some more when we get to him. Carl, how about Department of Labor? 2 to 3 years from now, it sounds like you've got a lot of the building blocks in place that you're stacking up very nicely. Where are you going to be 3 years from now? Is it going to be all done and you're going to be on to something else?
No, Luke, we won't be on to something else. It's a long journey. It's a never-ending journey, as we've talked about here today. So I think 2 to 3 years from now, we'll be focusing on identity and access management. We'll be in an area like a lot of people have talked about, where, hey, we do have our our network segmented. We have assets locked down, and the key is making sure that those people that we do verify, those identities that we verify are in fact who they say they are, so that identity and access management will continue to be important. And then starting to lean into AI and machine learning to, in a much quicker time, identify where those threats might be, where even something that we think is a verified asset couldn't be. Leverage AI and machine learning to mitigate those vulnerabilities and threats at a quicker pace, just as a lot of our folks have been saying. And but we have to remember, zero trust is not going to be a journey we finish. It's always going to be, as with everything with cybersecurity, you continue to work, you continue to tweak and get better. You continue to defend, because the adversary doesn't stop. They don't say, oh boy, you guys are so secure, we're moving on, we're never coming back.
Right. As a matter of fact, they get that much more sophisticated, right?
Right.
Really do appreciate everything you're doing, Carl. Stephen, DIA, fast forward 2 to 3 years from now, a lot of complexity there. The adversary, again, getting more and more aggressive. What can we expect 2 to 3 years from now?
Yeah, we expect to begin to see a shift in our enterprise to a secure data-centric environment by embracing these zero trust core cyber services that we're putting online. Along with that, we hope to see a shift in culture within the enterprise as well, to start embracing this journey and realize that it's not only about the cyber aspects of Zero Trust, but it really brings to bear for the mission, I would say, features within that space as well. If properly implemented, the discoverability of data, the data owners with the assertions that they understand the protection of their data that's moving through the enterprise, the interoperability between our partners and the community. These are all features that mission has just wanted for so long. So rather than having these unique capabilities, we're hoping to start to see that shift in culture where there's an embracement of these services. And then, like everyone, we're hoping to start to increase our AI integration and automation through more software-defined services within the enterprise.
Really do appreciate that and everything that you've been doing. Vu, 2 to 3 years from now, you've got obviously you've got your environment understood, you've got your warriors out there hunting. Perhaps you're implementing some advanced technologies. Where do you think you're going to be 2 to 3 years from now as you're putting these building blocks together?
So very similar to what everyone's been saying, Luke, right? So within the next few years, I do see a change in the threat detection side, because Zero Trust will provide us with a granular view within our environment, because it enables us to be able to monitor who's accessing what resource, with what device, at what time, and from which locations. So this level of visibility is important for us, so it can help us quickly detect and respond to the ongoing threats and the attacks. And as we are making it harder and harder for the adversary, what I do see is there will be a change to their TTP, because they will always be targeting at the weakest link. And also what I do see in the near future is that we are forming a relationship and a partnership between the public and private sector, especially with the vendor who are at the forefront with the Zero Trust solutions, because their expertise is vital in ensuring that we are equipped with the latest and most effective security technologies. So as I look forward, I'm very excited about the potential partnership, because by combining the strength of both sector, I think together as a community, we can successfully transition towards Zero Trust.
Really do appreciate that, and we appreciate the key to that partnership with the vendor community. Many of them on this show today, so we really do look forward to that, and look forward to all that you're doing, and thank all of you for what you're doing and taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us on the program today. I'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make this program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.